Nobody expected to see Lil Nas X locked up in a Los Angeles jail cell, let alone sentenced. But after pulling this wild stunt my good side and attacking a cop while naked, his future behind bars looks real. The real shock isn't the jail time, but the fact that he's completely lost his mind.
Just keep them in your prayers, you know.
Let me break it down, how Lil Nas X ended up in handcuffs. Listen up, because this story about to blow your mind. Picture this. It's barely sunrise on August 21st, 2025. Los Angeles police getting frantic calls about some dude walking buck naked through Studio City. Nobody on that dispatch call knew they about to arrest one of the biggest names in music. But that's exactly what went down on Ventura Boulevard that morning. The scene was straight chaos from minute one. Multiple witnesses describe watching this figure stumble through the early morning streets wearing nothing but tidy Ys and some beat up cowboy boots. At first, folks thought maybe they were witnessing some elaborate music video shoot or guerrilla marketing campaign. The reality was far more disturbing. This was Monanto having what appeared to be a complete mental breakdown in broad daylight. TMZ managed to secure exclusive video footage that shows the full extent of his erratic behavior. Hey, don't be late to the party tonight. Where at? You know where it's at. The clip reveals him wandering aimlessly, belting out random songs, and obsessively inviting strangers to some mysterious party that existed only in his head. What's particularly haunting is watching him place a traffic cone on his skull like some twisted crown. Completely disconnected from the reality unfolding around him, the footage captures something deeply troubling. You can witness the exact moments when his awareness flickered in and out. 1 second, he's performing for cameras with his trademark confidence. The next, he's desperately pleading with people to stop recording as if suddenly understanding how vulnerable and exposed he looked. Bystanders didn't know whether to intervene, call emergency services, or just document what appeared to be a celebrity having the worst day of his life. The situation escalated dramatically when law enforcement arrived on the scene. Instead of surrendering peacefully or attempting to explain his condition, reports confirmed that Monto physically attacked the responding officers. Witnesses described him charging like a wild animal, completely unable to distinguish between people trying to help and perceived threats. The officers faced an impossible situation, dealing with someone clearly in crisis while also protecting themselves from assault. Here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Paramedics suspected he was experiencing a severe drug overdose, forcing them to rush him to emergency medical care before any booking could occur. The hospital evaluation stretched for hours, with medical professionals running extensive toxicology screenings and neurological assessments to determine what exactly had triggered this extreme behavioral episode. Once doctors cleared him medically, the legal machinery kicked into high gear. Monto found himself transported to Valley Jail in Van Nuys, his very first experience inside a correctional facility. And the irony wasn't lost on anyone that the same man who once joked about going to jail over Satan's shoes was now actually behind bars facing serious felony charges. Sources close to the situation described his initial processing as traumatic, with him struggling to comprehend how his life had spiraled so dramatically in just a few hours. The celebrity booking protocol meant extra security measures, isolation from general population, and heightened documentation of every step in the process. This wasn't just another arrest. This was a Grammy-winning superstar being fingerprinted, photographed, and assigned an inmate number. The psychological impact of that transition from global icon to county jail detainee cannot be understated. When prosecutors finally filed charges on August 25th, they didn't hold back. 4 separate felony counts hit the court docket, 3 for battery causing injury to police officers, plus 1 for resisting arrest with violence. Each individual charge carries up to 3 years in state prison, meaning if convicted on everything, Montero could disappear behind bars for over a decade. That's a career-ending, life-altering amount of time for anyone, especially someone who just turned 26 years old. California's legal system takes assault on law enforcement extremely seriously. These aren't misdemeanor slaps on the wrist. These are felony prosecutions that require mandatory minimum sentences upon conviction. The district attorney's office clearly viewed the video evidence and officer statements as sufficient to pursue the maximum possible penalties. Legal analysts have been pointing out that celebrity status actually works against defendants in cases like this, as prosecutors want to demonstrate equal treatment under the law. The courtroom drama reached its peak during his arraignment. Standing before a Los Angeles Superior Court judge, Montero entered not guilty plea to all charges, while his newly hired defense attorney scrambled to manage the media circus surrounding the case. The bail hearing became a crucial battle, with prosecutors demanding $300,000, while the defense argued for lower amounts based on his community ties and lack of prior criminal history. Ultimately, the judge settled on $75,000 bail, still a substantial sum that demonstrates the court's concern about flight risk and public safety, and the conditions of his release included mandatory enrollment in substance abuse programs and regular check-ins with probation officers. These requirements suggest the court system recognizes underlying issues that contributed to his breakdown and arrest. Social media exploded, with reactions ranging from genuine concern to harsh judgment. Fans flooded platforms with prayers and supportive messages, while critics used the incident to validate their long-standing complaints about his controversial artistic choices. The divide in public opinion reflected broader cultural tensions around mental health, celebrity culture, and accountability in the entertainment industry. Additional surveillance footage emerged from the hours leading up to his arrest. Security cameras at a Hollywood hotel captured him wandering their property approximately 15 hours before the Ventura Boulevard incident. In these earlier recordings, he appears more composed, but still exhibiting concerning behavior, removing clothing, drinking excessive water, and seeming disoriented about his location, despite not being a registered guest. This timeline suggests his deterioration wasn't sudden, but rather a gradual descent that accelerated throughout the day and night. Hotel staff reported him appearing confused about where he was and why he was there, raising questions about what triggered this extended episode and whether intervention could have prevented the eventual confrontation with police. The legal implications extend far beyond just criminal penalties. This represents Monto's first encounter with serious criminal charges, marking a dramatic escalation from his previous civil legal issues like the Nike trademark dispute over Satan's shoes, where that earlier controversy was ultimately resolved through settlements and publicity. These criminal charges carry permanent consequences that could affect everything from touring internationally to maintaining professional licenses. Industry insiders been speculating about connections between his arrest and mounting career pressures. Recent musical releases failed to achieve the commercial success of his earlier hits, leading to whispers about his relevance and staying power in an increasingly competitive landscape. The stress of living up to impossible expectations while maintaining his provocative public persona may have contributed to whatever breaking point led to that August morning breakdown. The controversies that built his brand and broke his spirit. Now that we covered how Monto ended up in custody, let's rewind and examine the explosive controversies that defined his career trajectory. Every major scandal, every public outcry, every moment of moral panic, they all led to this inevitable crash that nobody wanted to see coming. This man mastered the art of turning outrage into chart success, but that same strategy might have ultimately destroyed him from the inside out. The foundation for his controversial reputation started with what many consider his masterpiece of provocation, the Montero Call Me By Your Name visual spectacle. Here, this wasn't just a music video, it was a calculated assault on conservative sensibilities that depicted him seducing Satan himself in hell's most intimate setting. The religious imagery wasn't accidental. Every symbol, every reference, every provocative frame was designed to trigger maximum moral outrage from traditional Christian audiences. The accompanying merchandise strategy proved even more inflammatory. Collaborating with notorious art collective MSCHF, they created the legendary Satan footwear, customized Nike sneakers containing actual human blood, pentagrams, and biblical references to Satan's fall from grace, limited to exactly 666 pairs priced at $118 each. They represented the perfect fusion of blasphemy and capitalism that defined Montero's approach to controversy marketing. The cultural response was swift and vicious. Conservative commentators like Candace Owens declared war on his artistic vision, claiming he was corrupting black youth and undermining traditional family values. Religious leaders organized boycotts. Politicians condemned him publicly, and even Nike filed immediate legal action to distance themselves from the unauthorized modifications to their products. But here's the genius part. Every angry tweet, every outraged sermon, every political condemnation just amplified his reach and drove more streams to his music. The backlash revealed deep fault fault lines in American culture around race, sexuality, and religious authority. Montero's critics weren't just upset about artistic expression, they were threatened by a young black openly gay artist who refused to stay in his assigned cultural lane. Yes, his response to the criticism was characteristically defiant, posting mock apologies that cut directly to scenes of him grinding on Satan, essentially telling his haters that their anger only made him more successful. Numbers don't lie when it comes to controversy driving commercial success. The Montero single shot straight to #1 on Billboard accumulated over 100 million views within weeks and established him as someone who could weaponize moral panic for mainstream profit. The Satan shoes sold out instantly, became collector's items worth thousands, and created a template for artist brand collaborations that push cultural boundaries. But the pattern of escalating provocations continued with his next major scandal. The J. Christ era marked his boldest religious appropriation yet, featuring album artwork that depicted him crucified like Jesus, and music videos filled with biblical imagery, recontextualized through a queer lens. The title track was literally dedicated to Jesus Christ as the man who had the greatest comeback of all time, blending genuine spiritual exploration with calculated blasphemy. His promotional campaigns reached new levels of offensive creativity. Social media posts showed him consuming communion elements while dressed as Christ, creating fake acceptance letters from conservative Christian universities, and essentially cosplaying as the savior of Christianity while promoting music that many Christians found deeply offensive. The communion stunt particularly crossed lines for religious audiences who consider those rituals sacred and not appropriate for entertainment purposes. Christian backlash reached fever pitch with prominent influencers and religious figures calling for boycotts, prayer campaigns, and even suggesting spiritual warfare against his influence. Twitch streamer Kaizenat's viral rant about divine retribution reflected broader sentiments in religious communities that Monto had gone too far in mocking their faith. The controversy generated massive engagement, but also revealed the limitations of his shock value strategy. Aiden Ross also commented. He said,
"First of all, you're gay. You're automatically going to hell. Second of all, this not okay. It's just not okay, bro. It's just not okay. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, bro. Listen. This not it. This really not it, bro. Like, I got a lot of people that are very close to me in my chat, and we not rocking with this. It's super disrespectful. It's wrong. And yeah, burn, baby, burn. Like, who laughed at this, bro? Like, who's liking this? Like, bro, like, who the like, TikTok, you should have just been take this.
For the first time, the backlash seemed to genuinely affect him. He issued public apologies, acknowledging that some promotional content had gone overboard, suggesting that even he recognized boundaries existed in his pursuit of viral attention.
But I do apologize for that. I will say I am sorry for that. That was overboard. Though I don't agree with all of Christianity's rules or whatnot. Hello, everybody. I wanted to not necessarily apologize, but I wanted to explain. I'm not the first person to dress up as Jesus. I'm not the first rapper. I'm not the first artist, and I won't be the last. And I know, like, given my history with, the Call Me By Your Name video, anything that I do related to religion can be seen as, like, mockery. That just was not the case with this. And I will say, though, with the communion video, with me eating the crackers and juice, I thought that video was gonna be the video to lighten the mood, to take it down, like, less serious or whatnot. I thought that was something that we all wanted to do as kids or whatnot, but I didn't understand the idea of, the reality of what it is. It's me eating the communion, which is like the symbolism of like Jesus's blood and bones or something like that.
Yeah, and this moment of vulnerability contrasted sharply with his typically defiant responses to criticism, hinting at internal struggles with the psychological cost of constant controversy generation. The transgender community controversy revealed another dimension of his problematic social media behavior. His March 2023 joke about gender transition surgery landed during a particularly sensitive period when anti-trans legislation was proliferating nationwide. The poorly timed humor sparked genuine anger from LGBTQ+ advocates who expected better from someone positioned as a queer icon. His response to trans activist criticism showed a nastier side of his personality, with crude dismissals that led to harassment campaigns against community organizers. The incident exposed how his internet troll background sometimes overwhelmed his role as a supposed advocate for marginalized communities. Even his eventual apology felt hollow compared to the immediate harm caused by his initial response and the subsequent piling on from his fan base. The homophobic attacks he faced throughout his career created their own layer of trauma. Rapper Boozy Badazz's deleted tweet encouraging his suicide represented the extreme end of hip-hop's rejection of his openly gay identity. These weren't just professional criticisms, they were personal attacks on his right to exist and succeed as an authentic queer artist in traditionally masculine genres. Industry relationships suffered as well. His tensions with BET after they questioned whether he was a Satanist or devil worshipper following his award show performance illustrated how even supposedly supportive institutions harbored reservations about his provocative approach. The disconnect between his artistic vision and industry comfort levels created professional isolation that may have contributed to his recent breakdown. Each controversy followed a predictable pattern: outrageous content drops, massive public outcry, defiant doubling down, temporary chart success, then diminishing returns as audiences became desensitized to his tactics. Critics began noting his reliance on shock value over musical substance, questioning whether his artistry could survive without manufactured outrage, driving attention to his releases. The psychological toll of maintaining this persona became increasingly obvious through his social media presence. Post reflected growing paranoia about public reception, defensive attitudes toward criticism, and apparent struggles with balancing authentic self-expression against commercial pressures. The young man who once confidently trolled conservative America began showing signs of someone trapped by his own controversial reputation. Recent releases failed to generate the same level of cultural conversation despite employing similar provocative strategies. Jay Crest debuted poorly compared to his earlier hits, suggesting that audiences had either moved on or grown tired of his controversy-driven approach to promotion. The diminishing returns on shock value likely contributed to whatever crisis culminated in his August arrest. Career collapse from chart topper to cautionary tale. Yo, let's talk about the transformation from internet sensation to industry pariah didn't happen overnight, but looking back, the warning signs were flashing bright red for anyone paying attention. Monto Lamar Hill's journey from viral genius to legal defendant represents one of the most dramatic career implosions in recent entertainment history, and understanding how we got here requires examining every crack in the foundation that eventually brought the whole structure tumbling down. Let's start at the beginning because the Lil Nas X origin story reads like pure American dream material. Born into a musical family in suburban Georgia, with gospel-singing relatives providing the soundtrack to his childhood, young Montero seemed destined for creative greatness. But beneath that promising surface, early struggles with identity, sexuality, and family dynamics created psychological fractures that would later manifest in his public breakdowns. His adolescent years were spent mastering social media manipulation as Nasmiraj, a hardcore Nicki Minaj stan account that built massive followings through strategic trolling and meme creation. College lasted barely a year before he dropped out to pursue music, supporting himself through minimum wage jobs at fast food chains and theme parks while crafting the song that would change everything. The meteoric success of Old Town Road wasn't just about catchy melodies and genre fusion. This track dominated Billboard for 19 consecutive weeks, broke streaming records, and forced the music industry to reconsider artificial boundaries between country and hip-hop. Najuri the Yo. The Billy Ray Cyrus collaboration amplified its reach exponentially, earning diamond certification and multiple Grammy Awards, while establishing Montero as someone who could manipulate cultural conversations for commercial gain. As far as his music is concerned, he is ready to go all out.
I really want to make sure I have fun this time around. I don't think I got to have as much fun during the Montero era because I was more overly focused on, I don't know, making sure the songs did well than making sure I was like having fun doing, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I didn't have any fun. I had some fucking fun, okay? But I want this time around to be even more fun, and I want to be like even more full of joy, and I want to be even more full of love, and I want to go out here in this world, and I want to wave my hands in the sky and move about freely. And that's what the Dream Boy era is gonna be. Hotbox is coming next. Fairly soon. I'm not going to give you guys a date. I'm going to announce it when I announce the date, okay? But I need you guys to stick beside me. We are fucking coming. Monterrey, we are coming. I have the songs. I have the fucking music.
But that unprecedented success created impossible expectations for everything that followed. When your debut single becomes the biggest hit of the decade, every subsequent release gets measured against that impossible standard. The pressure to recreate viral magic while also establishing artistic credibility proved more challenging than anyone anticipated, especially for someone still figuring out his identity as both an artist and a person. The decision to publicly embrace his homosexuality during Pride Month 2019 was strategically brilliant but personally costly. Coming out as the first openly gay black rapper to achieve mainstream success opened doors for LGBTQ+ representation while also painting a target on his back for homophobic attacks from industry veterans and conservative audiences. The courage required for that revelation deserves recognition, but the psychological impact of constant scrutiny took its toll over time. However, he maintains that he is gay and proud. He even once threatened his straight fans.
A lot of y'all, like, y'all should be happy I'm gay, because I would take all like very easily.
His internal struggle with sexuality during his teenage years, including prayers that his attractions were just a phase, reveals the deep-rooted shame and confusion that influenced his later artistic choices. The transition from closeted self-doubt to militant queer visibility wasn't gradual healing. It was reactive overcompensation that manifested as increasingly extreme public performances of sexual identity. The Montero album represented both his artistic peak and the beginning of his commercial decline, peaking at number 2 on Billboard while featuring chart toppers like Industry Baby. The project showcased genuine musical growth and emotional depth. Songs explored themes of fame, sexuality, mental health, and religious trauma with sophistication that surprised critics who dismissed him as a one-hit wonder. But the album's success couldn't mask growing problems in his personal relationships and professional partnerships. His romance with dancer Yaya played out publicly, including their BT Awards kiss and subsequent breakup, revealing someone who struggled to maintain intimate connections while living under constant public scrutiny. The emotional weight of that relationship's collapse, described as his most serious to date, contributed to the isolation that characterized his recent years. Industry relationships deteriorated as his controversies became more extreme and less commercially viable. The Long Live Montero tour achieved critical acclaim for its theatrical ambition and artistic vision. Sold-out venues couldn't compensate for diminishing streaming numbers and reduced radio support. The disconnect between live performance success and digital platform struggles highlighted fundamental changes in how his audience consumed his content. Recent musical releases revealed the limitations of controversy-driven promotion strategies. Singles like Jay Cries failed to maintain chart positions despite generating significant social media discussion, suggesting that audiences had grown fatigued with shock value tactics or moved on to newer artists employing similar approaches. The diminishing returns on provocative content likely contributed to whatever crisis culminated in his arrest. His approach to romantic relationships reflected broader struggles with intimacy and trust. Admitting to pausing relationship pursuits to focus on career advancement revealed someone who prioritized professional success over personal connections, a decision that may have increased his isolation and contributed to his recent breakdown. The 2021 GQ interview discussing his breakup with Ariza showed genuine vulnerability rarely displayed in his public persona. Even his documentary projects couldn't bridge the gap between artistic ambition and commercial reality. Long Live Montero offered rare insights into his family relationships while still guarding details about romantic partnerships and personal struggles. The careful curation of his image, even in supposedly intimate documentary footage, suggests someone uncomfortable with genuine vulnerability despite built a career on apparent authenticity. Awards and accolades accumulated throughout his career, including 2 Grammys, 5 Billboard Music Awards, and multiple MTV VMAs. But industry recognition couldn't address underlying psychological issues or provide the personal fulfillment he seemed to be seeking through increasingly desperate attention-grabbing tactics. Success metrics meant nothing when measured against internal emptiness and relationship failures. Personal traumas compounded professional pressures in devastating ways. His grandmother's death in 2018, his mother's ongoing addiction struggles, and the constant scrutiny of his sexuality created a perfect storm of emotional instability that his team seemingly couldn't or didn't address adequately. The February 2025 video reflecting on pretty difficult years hinted at struggles that were largely hidden from public view until they exploded into legal consequences. Career pivots like turning down the Euphoria role to focus exclusively on music demonstrated commitment to his artistic vision, but also reflected tunnel vision that ignored warning signs about his deteriorating mental state. The decision to concentrate solely on musical output while avoiding diversification opportunities may have increased pressure on each release to achieve impossible commercial and cultural impact. The streaming data tells a story of gradual audience abandonment that contradicts his social media engagement levels. While controversy still generated headlines and trending topics, actual listening patterns showed declining interest in his musical output among casual fans who powered Old Town Road to historic success. This disconnect between attention and consumption likely created cognitive dissonance about his actual cultural relevance. Industry insiders described mounting frustration with his team's inability to translate viral moments into sustainable commercial success. The gap between his social media influence and actual market performance created tensions with record labels, booking agents, and business partners who expected returns on their investments in his controversial brand. The August arrest represents not just a legal crisis, but the inevitable culmination of years of unaddressed psychological trauma, professional pressures, and personal isolation that his success couldn't mask or resolve. Whether this represents a temporary setback or permanent career destruction remains unclear, but the trajectory from viral sensation to felony defendant serves as a cautionary tale about the hidden cost of fame in the social media age. Thanks fam for watching. To get more of such content, please click on the card showing on the screen.